and welcome back to an Ode to Birth podcast. Today I'm here with the lovely Miss Jord, and she approached me after my workshop at First Daughters Festival this summer in Birkin, British Columbia. Her story is so compelling, and Jord, I'm so happy that you're here with us and willing to share the intricacies of your birth. And I heard that you're planning on birthing a second child. So you're going to be getting into kind of what you want to do this time around.
Yeah,
But please introduce yourself to everybody and let's just get right into it.
sounds good. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan. I recently became a birth doula, and I'm also in the middle of a birth educators course right now. So, learning a lot of things, looking back on my first birth that I'm like, oh, if only. But yeah, I guess I'll just start by talking about my first pregnancy. I'm currently 4 months, give or take, with my second. But yeah, um, my first pregnancy, I, I guess like I will just like go on to say that like my education prior, like was all Instagram education, right? Like, which, okay, I mean, at a certain degree, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because I'm very thankful we have these outlets to be able to learn a lot about these topics. Um, but it's kind of like can be a dangerous thing at the same time. Like for me, I was listening to a lot of free birth podcasts. So I was absolutely terrified of the hospital. And don't get me wrong, there are definitely things about the hospital that we should know, and it's good to bring awareness to. But also recognizing that sometimes, maybe we do need a little extra help, and that's absolutely okay. And that's what, you know, those people are there for. But yeah, so my first pregnancy, I would call it like a semi-wild pregnancy. I didn't really have any prenatal care until I was about 20 weeks. Um, Started off at a birthing center, but even there, I kind of felt they didn't really align with what I was wanting. I really was wanting a home birth, but they didn't. The midwife there didn't do them. And the one thing that like really solidified me leaving was we travel a lot for work, and I had to leave. And when I called, I was like, "Hey, I need to reschedule my appointment," and she goes, "Well, this is inadequate prenatal care." I'm like, okay, well, I'm just, you're gonna take my blood pressure and that's about it. And like ask me how I'm doing. Like it's fine. So yeah, long story short, I've stars aligned. I found my home birth midwife. She comes to my house for all my appointments. I don't have to go anywhere. And it's really just, hey, hi, how are you doing? Kind of thing. I never had to do not that you have to do anything when you're with another provider, but I never felt pressured to do any other testing, right? So like I ended up not doing like the group B strep test and all of that stuff, right? That's in my opinion unnecessary, right? Unless you feel that there's a reason to test for those things.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So you were having like in the back of your mind, you had all this Instagram knowledge and you learned, which I think is it's true. Instagram can be a great place to shift your perspective.
Yeah.
Um, so you had it in the back of your mind that you knew it was possible to
Oh, I think you're
decline.
cutting out a little bit. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Is that
Can you?
better?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know if it's
Okay.
my Wi-Fi here at the Airbnb or not.
Maybe we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Um, so you had it in the back of your mind that you knew you could decline these interventions or standard operating procedures. So it sounds like the registered midwife that you found that you felt safe with, you were able to explain to her that you didn't want to take these diagnostic tests, or like what did that conversation look like with her?
Yeah, she like when the time came up for like the group B, for example, right? You do that like more towards the end. She had brought it up just like as conversation, and I was like, well, like, do you think it's necessary? And she was like, I mean, no. She's like a lot of times these tests even can be positive and then you're negative by the time you give birth, right? So then you're like giving yourself antibiotics and the baby antibiotics when it never needed to happen. So she's like, the best thing to do is to just consistently be taking um like higher dose of probiotics and things like that. Yeah.
Amazing, because you're just young and you know you're healthy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
And
don't even think they do testing for group B strep in certain parts of Europe.
oh, really? That's interesting.
They're just
Yeah.
like, we're going to
Yeah.
omit that.
I did do the gestational diabetes screening because I was still with the birth center when I did that, but I did the fresh test. I'm not sure if you have that one in Canada.
No.
Yeah, so it's like it's a more natural, it's like this powder that you put into your water and that you drink before an hour before. And so it's not full of like all the chemicals and things um
Oh,
that you're given in hospital. Yeah. Yeah, I
it
don't
might
know
be
if they,
happening. It might be happening. I just am unfamiliar. I've been kind of out of the game for a little bit in
yeah,
regards to supporting families within the system. So,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So like if a mother is ever wanting to look at those options, that's a good one to take a look at. But I know like I mean you can also like eat organic jelly beans and like there are other, other things that you can do that you don't have to do this toxic drink. So yeah. Yeah, but yeah, so I'll go my pregnancy. It was honestly like the perfect pregnancy. I loved being pregnant. I was a little tiny bit of nausea in the beginning, but hardly at all, like nothing to complain about whatsoever. This pregnancy is very different. I I've been very sick. Not now. I'm feeling better now, but like my whole first 3 months, I was like puking, couldn't get off the couch. I feel great now, but yeah, it was rough. And I'm not sure why. I mean, they're pretty close together. My son is 13 months now, so I don't know if it has something to do with like my body not fully being like, still depleted of some nutrients or what the case is. But yeah. Um anyways, my labor with my first. So my water broke at 3 a.m. While I was sleeping. The day prior, I just felt weird. Like that's the only way I could describe it is I just felt off. And not in a bad way, just I just felt strange and I knew something was happening. So then yeah, my water broke at 3 a.m. We try to go back to sleep, but it's just, I don't know, especially with your first, I feel like it's so exciting. You're like, I don't know, I couldn't go back to sleep. But we like laid down for a while, until the contractions got so intense that I was like, okay, I can't be laying down anymore. But they got intense pretty quickly. So we had like called my midwife. She's like, okay, call me, get some rest, call me in a little bit when they're a little closer together. Then they were like super close together. We called her because she had like an hour drive. And sorry, I'm just trying to remember. And then yeah, so I got in the birth pool. My midwife showed up. I remember like being in labor land and her walking in. You're just like in that different dimension when you're in labor. And yeah, so then I remember about sunset um is when my body started having that urge to push, right? So your body just, it's like you're not pushing, your body is just doing it. Your body's like, okay, like let's do this thing. And I went on like that forever. And what we think was going on was what they called like a cervical lip, which we had talked a little bit about at Earth Daughters, right? So, and then also learning in my doula course, my birth education course, that really what that is baby's positioning could maybe just be a little bit better, right? So how do we fix that with switching up our movement? You suggested even doing an inversion, right? So baby could actually come up off of the cervix, swelling could go down, and then baby can reposition. Yeah. And then another thing that was challenging in my labor at home was I puked the entire time with every single contraction. My midwife is even like, I've never, ever, and I mean, she's older. She's got to be in her 60s, right? She serves the Amish community. She serves the English community. You know, she's seen so many things. And she's like, I've never seen a mother puke this much in her labor. So hindsight bias with that, with this labor, I have some nausea medication on hand just in case. And she has some like peppermint things as well to help with that. But yeah, so I think the dehydration um, really took a toll on my body as well, right? And so it was, past midnight and I'm passing out in between contractions, like because I'm so exhausted. I remember actually going into a dream state and having like these short 1 minute dreams. And then I'd like wake back up in a contraction. So yeah, it was really, really intense. And my midwife was like, I think it might be time to call it, not in an emergency reason, but just like, I think you just need some break and maybe some extra assistance. So that's what we did. We went to the hospital, which was my biggest fear. Like I said, I was listening to all these free birth podcasts that just completely demonize the hospitals. And they don't have any stories about people transferring and what that means. But luckily I had prepared with a birth plan printout just in case we did have to go to the hospital. I was really pleasantly surprised with the hospital in my area. They respected my birth plan 100%. I had to sign a few things that are like hospital policy, but they didn't give me, any grief about it. They were just like, yeah, absolutely. You just need to sign this. Even like with the placenta, like when I delivered the placenta, I wanted to keep it attached, kept it attached for over 2 hours. I remember them being kind of just like, I'm just a little like confused. Like I've never seen anybody do this. So like, when do you want to cut it? And I'm like, they were just, they were asking questions, which was, I think also good, right? Because then like they're seeing like somebody birth in a different way. Sorry, I'm kind of like bouncing around a little bit. But yeah, back to when I did transfer. So I did end up getting an epidural so that I could relax. I got some Zofran for the nausea. And they also had these like peppermint like patch things that they put on my chest to like aroma to help with
Mm.
my nausea as well. And yeah, so like nausea was gone. I got the epidural and I got the epidural without narcotics. So this is the big thing we were talking about at Earth Daughters. So many people don't know that there's are narcotics like fentanyl in epidurals. And, yes, there is. They give it to women a lot of times without their consent, right? Women don't know they are even receiving this. And just to like make sure I wasn't crazy and like remembering this improperly, I have a friend who's actually a nurse anesthetist in L&D, and I was like, so I'm pretty sure like this happened in my labor. Like, can you tell me about, a little bit about epidurals? So she's explaining to me, right, the epidural itself is, right, it's like the spinal tap, and it's a local anesthetic, right? So it only numbs that area. So I had only the numbing medication, whereas a lot of times they will use it in conjunction with something like fentanyl or other narcotics. So if you do end up wanting to get an epidural, you do have to request, hey, I don't want narcos, right? Um, they think, I don't know if they think that the pain doesn't like it doesn't help the pain as much, or what they think, but it was fine for me. You know, you also want to be able to feel a little bit of your contractions, right? Because you need to know like when you're pushing. Yeah, so overall, my hospital transfer experience was really positive. However, there were a couple things looking back. One small-ish thing and then one big thing. I'll talk about the smaller one first. So, even as much as I knew, and as well as I did advocating for myself, when it came to them coaching me to purple push, I just like allowed them to do it. I don't know, like I knew in the back of my head, I'm thinking like, I know I should be doing this a different way. But for some reason, I was just like, okay, whatever. Yeah, so that's one thing that, you know, I definitely could have done differently that looking back. Second thing, which is very not okay, is that the OB was not in the room while I was pushing. And the nurse, which I made a complaint. So knowing now, she was a young, like traveling nurse, um, she didn't feel comfortable delivering. So when the OB was not in the room in time and my son was coming out, she went and she pushed on his head and she said, stop pushing. We know for a fact this can harm babies. This can cause things like cerebral palsy, right? Like this, that can be very serious. Thank God my son is okay. But it did cause me to have a third-degree internal tear. So I didn't have any tear like on my perineum where most women, if they tear, that's where they tear. It was all internal because of that, her pushing. I remember even with the epidural actually feeling that, and I had a mirror so I could see him coming out, and I remember seeing his head like he was like trying to turn, like he was like,
Mm.
what's going on? Yeah, so yeah, just like looking back, that's definitely one thing that could and should have been avoided. So now in my birth plan that I have for clients and you know, just in case for myself, is to make sure everybody in the delivery room that needs to be there is there, right? Not something that we think we should have to even think about or say, but apparently it is, right? So
I
yeah.
have a question just regarding, so yeah, so speaking to people in the room, you had a midwife. So for the listeners tuning into this episode, once we transfer to hospital, there's usually something going on that's out of the midwife's scope. And so therefore the client is then transferred into the care of the obstetrician.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, Jordan, where was your midwife when this traveling nurse was nervous about your son coming out? Where was your midwife in those moments? Because your
Yes.
midwife's, yeah.
So, she came to the hospital with me and was there literally up into the point where like right before, like 15 minutes before I had him. And
So
yeah,
she just like checked out.
she, she was exhausted and she did ask me if it was okay to leave. And I was like, yeah. I mean, hindsight, like looking back, I'm like, I wish I would have asked her to stay. Um,
Yeah, that's disappointing.
but yeah, definitely disappointing. And because I still am using her for this birth as well.
There's
Um,
also just like this energetic tether that you have to her during the birthing experience. Excuse me, it's like she's your doula, she's your the assistance there, that a pillar of support that you are perhaps leaning on. And
yeah,
even though she might be exhausted, like I've been at births for days and just been so checked out, but I know that my energy is important in the space. And even if I ask if I can go, I don't want to go because I know that that energetic tether is pretty important.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. That is one thing. And yeah, because I'm using her this time, that is something we have discussed and talked through. So, she has working with her now. So I live in New York State. She's licensed in Pennsylvania, not licensed in New York State, but she still serves me anyways. Her second midwife that's working with her used to be a midwife in Utah, but is not licensed, like working in our area whatsoever. So um, that's like, yeah. So she's newer. Before it was my midwife and then another nurse that she had as her like co-pilot. Um, yeah. So yeah, so with like my pregnancy now, like I said, I'm just like using her. I'm not going anywhere else externally. As far as testing and interventions, I plan to do none, right? Unless like I feel, I don't know, I would only do like gestational diabetes if I was feeling really yucky and thought that that was a good idea. That's the only, I think, reason I would do it. But like I said, I'm feeling really great right now. I'm pretty anti ultrasound. um, I if I was last time I did like a 20-week ultrasound, they required it at the birth center. Um, so, but yeah, I think this time I'm just gonna kind of abstain from all of that. Yeah, so and I'm just prepping my body differently now. Like we are 100% like responsible for how our births go. I mean, in some degree, right? Like obviously that woman pushing on my son's head, that was kind of out of my control, but at the same time, there are things that I could have done to prep better to prevent me from even going to the hospital, right? So some things I noticed were just how tired I got so quickly. So this time I'm really focusing on my fitness. I'm going to like bar classes, lots of squats, right? Lots of walking. Um, yeah, and like I'm prepping with all of my my doula education and my birth education course that I'm taking now, and yeah, so yeah, it's just
I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for you to do this again and to
yeah,
yeah, just like move through the veil with a different perspective and knowing all that you know now. And I truly believe that every woman receives the initiation that she needs in order to become the mother that she needs to be.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I see within you, you found a lot of courage, you found a lot of strength, you found um, acceptance and surrender, right? You're just like, I'm pushing. It's now past midnight. We've been doing
Yeah.
this since sundown. It's now past midnight. I'm freaking tired and I could use a little bit of support. I'm curious. So, once you got to the hospital, how did they take care of this swollen cervix
Yeah,
anteriorly?
so I laid on my left side. So left side is specific. And I had a peanut ball in between my legs. So I laid in that position probably, I want to say for about an hour. Um, because I had the epidural then too. So then I was able to just
Like,
rest a little,
relax.
like actually sleep a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, but something else I did want to say about the epidural, like just for women who are listening who are like, okay, like, if I want to have that as an option, like at least I know this now, right? Like I just want to say that like yes, not having narcotics in your epidural is more I don't know, how do I want to say this? I would say I don't know, I guess better, right? Like we don't want to be loopy and be drugged up or our babies be drugged, right? It can cause like heart rate issues with the baby as well as breathing problems. But I also want to mention that, epidurals, of course, are not risk-free. I was lucky to have a really good epidural that was done really well. I don't have any back issues. A lot of women have spinal leaks and stuff from epidurals and have back issues like lifelong.
And
Or
headaches.
I remember, yeah, I remember actually they made me sign a paper and they were saying like, yeah, so like we just want, like the risk, like you could never walk again. And, at that point I was like, okay, whatever. I just need help. But yeah, so it's not risk free. And even with the local anesthetic, that is a much better to just do that, right, than with the fentanyl or narcotics. But that also is not risk-free. It still can cause some breathing and heart issues in babies. Not as much, and it's not as common, but that's something I actually just learned recently in my classes. So yeah, any intervention, any medication, all of it has a risk, right? So we want to just know our risks, do our research, and then just, do what we need in that moment with what we know, right? Yeah.
That is such such beautiful, beautiful advice. It's so true. Yeah, like we're doing what we need to do in order to get the baby out of our body. And
Mm,
sometimes it requires assistance. I'm
yeah.
not against hospital transfers. I'm not against medical intervention. I
Yeah.
think undisturbed physiological home birth is optimal for mother and baby.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
especially for a primate mother, the body's never done this before. And some women who are trying to birth their babies for the first time are closer to their 40s, closer to their 50s. And
Mhm.
I'm not saying that older women can't have babies at home completely undisturbed, but our bodies are a lot more resilient, a lot more malleable, a lot more flexible, a lot more open, a lot more soft when we are closer to our biological, like the
Yeah.
time that we're supposed to be having babies, which is like once you meet your menarche at 14 years old or 15 years old,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's like the optimal time to be giving birth, but society, economy,
Right. Right.
um, and that's something that a registered midwife told me recently. She's like, medicine, you have to understand that women are having babies in their 40s and 50s, and nothing wrong with that, but the body isn't as adaptable as it can be when you're in your early 20s.
And we're also not as active as a society as we used to be, right? So like I said, like that was something that I really recognized that I'm taking more ownership for this time is being more active and like doing the types of exercises that are going to support me to be able to give birth to my baby, and whether it's a squatting position or on all fours or whatever, right? Because like squatting position is 100% optimal. I mean, your optimal position is however you feel comfortable in giving birth in that moment, absolutely. But squatting is such a primal thing. Like you think of even like children, like my son, he stands up and he squats down when he's playing, right? Like, and he stands up so easily. And that's something that we've lost over the years.
You're
So
so
yeah,
right. The way that the pelvis moves, the way that the hips can shift and shape. And it's amazing what happens during birth. Like just witnessing her body make way for the baby is probably one of the most fascinating things while
yeah,
attending births. You get to see her hips like move and open.
yeah.
And her skin even just feels softer. Like everything just is soft and supple. And
Mm,
but I think you're totally right. We need to condition the body and be in a space of flexible, being able to be flexible. Getting into that squatting position is so optimal for preparing
yeah,
the body for birth.
mm, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you're
Yeah.
trying for home birth again.
Yep. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And last time I was confident. I wasn't afraid. Like I said, my biggest fear was the hospital. And um, yeah. And it's funny too, I also did not want my mother there. And my mom ended up being being there for the whole thing. I had this fear that she was going to, I don't know, say something negative or just, I don't know, bad vibes. And she was amazing. I was actually very happy that she was there. This time around, I still just would just prefer it be my partner and our birth team. But
Mm.
but yeah, I just wanted to mention that too, because I think, our relationships with our mothers as well, kind of just going off on a little bit of a different subject, but it also ties in so much to who we are as mothers and how we, go into this, into our birth space and our mindset. I don't know. I truly think it has a lot to do with it. And for me, like my mom and I had kind of a complicated relationship for a while, and since having my son, we have been things have been like really good and positive for us. So I think that's really amazing. I truly think that also, like, even though things didn't go optimally for me the first time, through my experiences, I'm able to educate others and help others, right? So like just women knowing, being able to tell women, like, if you do want the epidural, you don't need you don't have to have narcotics. And some women are like, I didn't know they were in there. And like I remember my midwife even being confused when they were like, oh, we're not going to do narcos because you're too far along, like we don't want it to pass through the baby. And you were like, what? Why are you drugging women and they have an option not to, yeah. And yeah, I don't know. I feel things happen, they don't happen by accident. And just like me being in this space, is a good opportunity for me to be able to just share my experiences to help other mamas, future mamas.
Oh, totally. It's nice to have a right-hand woman in the birth space. You know, there's been times where I've been like, nurses just are pissed off at me, obstetricians are telling me to F off, and I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. Like you were speaking to being in that labor land, that more transcendent space, that in space, that interdimensional space. It's like hard to make decisions when you're traveling the astrals and moving in and out of, and like literally warping time as
Yes.
you're birthing your baby.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
hard to speak for yourself. And so to have a woman who knows you, loves you, has had multiple hours of conversations with you while they're in a more grounded space in their pregnancy, you want that woman there with you by your side to help advocate for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like, some people are like, oh, my husband will be my advocate. And I'm like, maybe.
Maybe,
But
but he's also
but a
moving
lot of,
so much shit for
yeah,
himself too.
right. Yeah, like this is his person and his child, and he's also like in his own labor land in a different way, right? So, he's thinking just like, oh, yeah, whatever you got to do. Some men might be different, right? Like I just recently heard a story. They really wanted to give birth in a hospital, but like the husband was a lawyer, and so he knew all about like the things that could go wrong in the hospital. So he like spent all this time like making up this contract so that, everything would happen like the way they wanted. And that's great. Like, right. Like amazing. But also it's like the fact that we have to jump through so many hoops to, not have traumatic things potentially happen to us in our births is yeah, it's just like wild to me.
Yeah, it's
You know,
frustrating.
yeah.
It's the reason why, like you and I, Jordan, are doing what we're doing because we're just trying to bring awareness into the birth space and help families understand that they don't need to get taken advantage of. They don't need to follow the standard operating procedures. If
Mhm.
you're trying to birth undisturbed at home and shit hits the fan, or the mother decides that she really needs help, or her intuition says something is wrong, or what we can see looks like imminent danger to her and her baby, we don't want anybody to die. We're going to go to the hospital. We're going to
Absolutely.
go and utilize medical obstetrics for what it's worth. And
Mhm.
usually in those moments, it can feel really scary. But from what I'm hearing in your story, the medical team was at the hospital was like super chill. They
Yes.
probably
Yes.
weren't that busy. I'm assuming that they
I
were
was the
all
only
just like
mom.
very relaxed
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I was the only mom there. And now just like connecting with other birth workers in my area. And we've been talking. And the one, she's been a doula for a very long time. And there are two other hospitals that surround us. The one bigger one, she's like, that is the worst. She's like, I would never suggest anybody go there because you're just another number there. The other one is smaller, but the super small town where OBs that get fired for something but not their license taken away, so they moved to a small town, right? Like there was an OB there that had a very high C-section rate. He's like, I need to go on vacation or whatever, so let's have a C-section. He recently was fired, but yeah, so like things like that happen there. The hospital I ended up giving birth in, she's like, I always suggest that as the best one. Just as far as how relaxed and accepting they are of like just I don't even want to say modern because it like birthing this way is not modern, right? Like we birthed like natural physiological birth for hundreds, thousands of years, right? Since
Yeah.
like beginning of time. They even used to do studies on how they proved that having midwives present in birth had always had better outcomes for both the mother and the baby. Right. And then, I mean, I don't know, then, Rockefeller and his OBs and um, then they started calling midwives quacks and
But then they're
it's
not even they can't even be there when you're pushing though. So like what the heck? What's
right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm
going
like,
on there?
it's just, it's a mess. Yeah.
I'm
And
so
I
curious
know
to
like,
sorry, keep going.
sorry, I was just saying, I don't know how it is in Canada, but like for us, like every state is different for like rules for midwives. So I know um, where I live in New York State, they're very strict for midwives. So like when I was going to the birthing center, I remember she she was having trouble with her licensing because her big thing about being a licensed midwife was she wanted to be able to offer um, the accepting of insurance, right? Because it's just out of pocket. So when I was going there, I remember it was like going to be like $6,000 out of pocket or something. Whereas like my home birth midwife still out of pocket, but it's like $4,000, which is a little bit easier to swallow. But
Yeah, here in British Columbia, you don't have to pay anything to have a registered midwife, but like they are an
you don't get to
extension.
choose either, right?
You
Like you
don't get
kind
to
of
choose.
pick your
Well,
own
you get to
pool.
it's yes and no. Like it depends on your catchment. So
Right.
if there's a midwife living in your city, then she's the one that's probably going to be working with you. If you want to choose your midwife in a different city, they won't actually bring you into their care because you're out of their catchment.
Yeah.
Most yeah, it's so anyways, it's like if you want a traditional attendant, if you want somebody there who's working out of system and they've are well experienced and have attended many births and there's just that crone wise woman that you want at the birth, it's around 3,000 to 5,000 Canadian.
Okay. Okay. So pretty, yeah, similar to here as well. Yeah.
But they're not performing anything medical because usually these clients that
Yeah.
are wanting that kind of care don't require anything medical. They're just
Yeah.
looking for that
Right.
experience and that
Yeah. Yep.
support.
Yeah. My midwife as well. She doesn't carry any sort of, yeah, medications or anything on her. Mostly just like homeopathy.
And I have a lot of respect for your midwife, and I know a lot of other traditional birth attendants in British Columbia and here in the region that I'm working out of is like if they're seeing something that's looking really challenging, or like I said, imminent danger to the mother or baby, they're going to say, let's go to the hospital. And I have a lot of respect for your midwife in that regard because she obviously like you're saying, has attended a lot of births and could see that something was going awry. And the only thing is like, I wonder if everybody just let you sleep, Jordan. Like, what if you like got out of the tub and went to sleep? Like, were you able to sleep?
No.
No.
No. No.
Too much pain. Too much pain. And what I've heard with the anterior lip is it's like the cervix is swollen and so it's like intensifies everything. So I
Yeah.
guess
And
that was
I
what you're
just
feeling.
like, I was having like what they call like back labor or whatever. Like I was feeling everything really condensed in my back. So, uh,
Mm.
yeah, that was like the hardest thing. Like I was needing like constant like pressure, counter pressure. And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So, and I don't know, I haven't done too much research yet about back labor and how, if that can be avoided or how any of that works. Usually it's positioning though, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah, you want baby spine facing your belly button. If
yeah.
baby spine is facing your spine, then it's bone on bone and it hurts. So that's
Mhm.
why like leaning forward a lot in your pregnancy can support the baby in having their spine towards your belly button. Because you think about if you're like leaning back, then the weight of your belly and the weight of your body is going to cause the baby to turn back to back. But if you're leaning forward, then they kind of float
Yeah.
in that optimal position. Not
Yeah.
always. And babies can
Floating
flip and
around.
turn in birth, right? Like during the birthing process, you can see the woman's womb and you can see this baby like moving, like
Mm.
doing huge movements during the birthing process as well. So,
Yeah, my just a short story my midwife shared with me. She had a woman who her baby was head down the entire pregnancy in labor, like even like they saw her belly just move and the baby turned breech last minute in labor,
wow.
which is very interesting. They were all like, what is going on? But I mean, it's babies baby wanted to be born that way, right? That
Mhm.
position obviously was optimal for that baby for some reason or another,
Did
right?
they stay at home?
Yep. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Because we
my
know,
midwife as well. That's something I really love about her is that she's trained in breech birth. She goes to many trainings every few years for that, and she's experienced many. So yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Oh, well, I'm so happy to have you on the podcast today because your story is inspiring and it's nice to hear these transfer stories where you're like, okay, it was getting hard. I needed help. We transferred and I ended up getting an epidural that didn't involve any narcotics, which I hadn't heard of until you shared that at Earth Daughters. And so thank you for reminding us that this is possible. And thank you for inspiring other women in your community to just have an empowering birth, have a birth that feels good in their heart, even if it means transferring to hospital. Um, I'm excited for you to go jump into the portal one more time and see what you need in order to be initiated a second time into motherhood.
Yeah,
And I think this first birth really like inspired you to become a birth worker, which is so there's so much medicine there, Jordan.
absolutely. Yeah. I'm so thankful and honored to be here and to have met you. And hopefully I'll see you next year. Sure.
Yes, my mom just texted me actually yesterday and she's like, "So, did you send in your application for Earth Daughters?" Because my mom already bought her ticket for next year, so
Did she?
apparently we're going.
I didn't yet, but yeah, I'll have a 4-month-old baby with me this time. So
Well, I want to stay in the know, like if you're looking for prayers, if you're going into your portal and you would love me to light a candle and just think of you, I can do that. And yeah, congratulations. Thank you so much, Jordan, and so much love to you.
thank you. Bye.